Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive in. We're here today with special guest Tahlia Fischer, who's here to share with us the horse and donkey rescue, all seated in a barn. Did you know that thousands of horses and donkeys face the kill pen every single day across the U.S.? Pretty sure most people don't know. I didn't know. What would a second chance for them look like? And can you be a part of that rescue? Well, today's guest is here to share with us how we can do just that. Tahlia Fischer is the co-founder of All Seated in a Barn, a nonprofit dedicated to rescuing horses and donkeys from kill pens, offering them rehabilitation and rehoming them into safe, loving environments. Through her work, Tahlia has helped save at-risk and endangered animals, including donkeys and even zebras, giving them a second chance at life. So welcome to the show, Tahlia Fischer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your nonprofit. I've been following you on social media, and my goodness, the work you're doing is so profound. Can you share with us what All Seated in a Barn is and how it started?
Yeah, of course. So All Seated in a Barn is a nonprofit horse rescue, and we started in 2018 with the focus on rescuing horses and donkeys that were in danger and marked to go to slaughter across the border in Mexico. And so it just kind of started out with we were going to help horses and donkeys, and now it's turned into this whole this whole beast of an organization that's focusing on even more so than what the original mission started out to be.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand what's happening, where these horses are coming from, and where they're going. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, and that is a very valid thing. So in the United States, when you think about unwanted animals, your first natural thought process goes towards dogs and cats and the shelter crisis and what's happening to all the dogs and cats, but no one ever stops to think for a minute, like what's happening to all the horses. And that is something that no one talks about. And there is no plan for the horses. The government's way to essentially sweep them under the rug is quite literally to send them across the border to the Mexican slaughter plants. And it's horrifying and it's sad and it needs to be talked about and it needs to get out there because there's literally no systems in place to even protect these horses because they're considered livestock. And so no one even gets in trouble for the amount of neglect that we see these horses go through when people, can't afford to do right by them. So it's a huge problem, and sadly, it's something I am fighting really, really hard to get the awareness part out there.
Well, I think you're doing a tremendous job, and I'd like to take you back to that first horse, that first donkey that you rescued.
Kevin, yeah, the barn was founded because in 2018, I was sitting watching The Bachelor with my sister. It was Chris Soules season, and she just happened to be scrolling social media like so many of us do when she saw a donkey that an SOS went up and someone posted the donkey and was saying that it was going to slaughter. And my sister showed me the post and I was just like, they still do that? Because when I was growing up, I was obviously, like many of us horse girls, obsessed with horses. I mean, I slept, thought about them, pretended to be one, made my dogs act like them. And I knew all about horses going to slaughter, and I knew all of that from going down the AOL.com rabbit hole back in the day. But obviously life happened and I went off to high school and college, and I guess in my head, I just didn't think about that anymore. I loved horses still, but I didn't think that the slaughter aspect was still a thing. So it hit me hard. And I just remember looking at my sister and I was like, what am I going to do with a donkey? I've never even met a donkey in my life. Like I had two horses at the time. Both were rescues that I adopted from rescue here in California. And I just kind of was mulling it over. And, a couple of glasses of wine later, and I was like, well, this donkey's going to get saved. I'll figure it out later. And so I told my sister, screw it, get a hold of the person who made the post. Let's track it down. Let's save the donkey. And so that's what I did. I paid $380. And a month later, Kevin showed up and I bawled my eyes out. It was such an like, it makes me choked up even talking about it, but it was such an overwhelming feeling because it was like everything I hated when I was little and read about was like real and in front of me, and I saved him from that. And what was crazy is that like so many people came out of the woodwork and were like, "Oh my gosh, you have a donkey." And they all wanted to come over and they wanted to meet the donkey. And my grandpa suddenly had all these stories of being in World War II, and he loved donkeys, and the donkeys like were his pack donkey that he took all around Germany and France. And none of us had ever even heard those stories from him. And he was, in his 90s. And so it wasn't until a friend of mine had come out to see the donkey and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I have always wanted to rescue animals." And I was like, "Yeah, me too. Like, dream job right there." And she was like, "We should start a rescue." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "We should just do it. We should start a rescue. And even if we save one animal, as we can, it's at least we're doing something." And I said, "Yeah, why not? Like, sounds good to me. If we all work together, we can do this because it's a big feat to take on an extra animal when you're already living paycheck to paycheck." And so that's just kind of like where me and my sister and a couple of the girls founded the nonprofit and just literally did that. We started one at a time, slowly rescuing and helping and learning. And, we didn't have any mentors. We didn't have anyone being like, "Hey, this is how you should run a rescue," or "Hey, don't do it this way. You should try it that way." Like we literally were just foot deep in the dirt trying to figure out this whole rescue world, this realm. And, we made a lot of mistakes, but we learned so much as we slowly grew. And me being the inquisitive person that I am, I always ask the question, why is it like that? And I was able through that to learn a lot about this industry that just kept fueling ultimately my fire to just really want to get awareness out there and to help as many as I could, but to also I'm not someone who like when I was growing up and like I said, I did a lot of AOL.comming back growing up. And there's just always rescues, like when I wanted a horse, I would email the rescues trying to inquire about who, if I was allowed, I could adopt and convince my mom to help me get. And that was something that struck me was that another, like, in addition to being like overwhelmed and shocked that slaughter was a thing, I was overwhelmed and shocked, why hasn't anything been done about it? So you're just telling me there's just still horse rescues and that no one's doing anything about it, really? And that part didn't sit well with me. Like, it's okay, in my opinion, to have the rescues and we've got to save the animals, but like, where is the screaming from the mountaintops? Where is the awareness? Like, I don't want to just rescue my whole life. Like, I want to solve the problem. And that's kind of where I feel like I really dug my heels in and started utilizing social media to push that awareness factor to get people invested in also wanting to stand behind and next to me to see change happen.
Well, I'm so glad that you are because I never knew about this. I mean, I love horses and kind of growing up in Southern California, the horse was like out of the question for us. Our parents, there's just no way that was going to happen. But every time I got the opportunity to ride, I took it. So, I mean, I have a great love for horses too, but I think a lot of people don't understand. So, where do the horses actually come from? Are they just owners are giving them up? Where are they ending up in this whole process? Are they ending up in like the next day in a sale? How does that work?
So the horses come from all over, and it goes back to that whole, if someone doesn't want their horse, where does it go? And that can be literally from something as simple as someone passes away and they have a 28-year-old horse in their backyard, and now the family doesn't know what to do with it. So they post the horse on Facebook or Craigslist, or they take it to wherever the closest auction is. It can be as, which I don't like, but a lot of, in the rodeos, the ex-bucking horses, if they don't buck hard enough to fulfill the entertainment aspect of what the rodeo industry is, then the fastest thing that they can do with those horses is just sell them to someone for dollars on the pound that ships them to slaughter. Now they're off their feed bill and they go away. It's the same thing with the race horses and the carriage horses and the Amish horses. I mean, there's so many ways in which if someone just simply doesn't need a horse or want their horse, they can just funnel it to either a local auction, or if they post it, there are people called horse traders that literally just make money trading and flipping horses. And an easy, fast way for them to make money is to see, someone who posts, hey, we have our family horse, we can't afford to take care of it anymore, looking for a good home. Well, the horse trader will give them, lowest price possible and turn around and sell it directly to the people, sending them to Mexico to make a really quick, easy profit. And so these horses can, as you can see, they can come from anywhere. It can be something, a horse is at a lesson barn and gets hurt. The vet comes out and says it's going to cost $2,500 to fix the horse. Well, if they don't have the money to fix the horse, the easiest thing to do with it is, again, either post the horse for sale or to take it to a local auction and make it someone else's problem, and while still pocketing a few dollars. And that is the sad reality of how these horses end up at this export facility going across the border into Mexico to go be slaughtered.
So I want to talk about a couple things here real quick, but I don't want to get too heavy because I think, when we talk about the condition that some of these horses that you see, a lot of these horses have been pretty horribly abused from what I'm seeing, what's being posted. Are there a couple stories you can share with us?
I would say that there's two that come to my mind just because of how extensive their injuries were and are. And one is Schaefer and one is Friday. And both of these horses had such significant damage to their legs, to one of their legs, and to where the bone is fully exposed, and all of the muscle and tissue and tendons were torn. And anyone could look at those horses and just immediately think, oh my gosh, that horse needs to be put down. And neither of them needed to be put down. They simply just needed the vet and time to heal. And Schaefer is almost completely healed now. And Friday has a long way to go, but she's getting there. And these are the cases that, like, I never forget because someone knew they got injured to that extent, and someone knowingly took those horses and made the choice to sell them in that condition. And that to me is absurd and should be absolutely illegal.
It really should be. I mean, we prosecute people for abuse to animals like dogs and cats and other things. We should also do the same thing when it comes to horses.
Right? I mean, it blows my mind because, to your point, if someone showed up at a public function with a dog with its leg mangled and the bones sit like literally exposed, trying to sell the dog, people would immediately call the police and the person would be arrested. But you can have someone literally selling a horse with leg in that condition and it's completely legal.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever. And that's
None.
why I think that like discussions like these are so important because I had no idea that this was so prevalent. Are the auctions every weekend? How often do the auctions happen?
So there are auctions every week all around the country, from varying sizes. They can be small, small town auctions with maybe 20 horses. And then you have, your bigger auctions, which the two biggest public auctions in the country are Billings, Montana and Bowie, Texas. But I mean, there's auctions all over from, like I said, the small to the big, but then there's also like super high premium auctions. Those horses aren't in danger. They're going for 20,000 to $1 million, if not more. But the ones where you tend to see the horses, like you and I are speaking about, are these public auctions where the horses are just cycled through until ultimately they end up at the Bowie sale barn, which also operates not just as an auction, but they are the largest exporter of horses to slaughter in America. They're just one business that has two ways to make money, auction and slaughter.
That's just heartbreaking. That's
Yeah.
heartbreaking to hear.
Yeah.
I I know that I've seen on your social media you have other horses that have come through like zebras.
hmm
Do you?
Yeah, and that's a whole
Mhm.
market of itself where people don't realize that it's legal to hunt zebras on public land, private land, sorry, here in the United States. So if you can't afford to fly to Africa, you can just simply fly to Texas or New Mexico and pay, $8 to $20,000 and go on a zebra hunt. And sadly, it's always the boy zebras that you see in the pipeline because in these places where they're breeding the zebras and allowing the zebras to breed, the boys are the ones that they hunt, but they can only have so many boys out with the girls. So they pull those boys in, they grab a chunk, they put them into the pipeline, and then they just make quick money off of them, basically. It's really sad.
It really is. It really is. Of all the animals that you've rescued at auction, what has been the most interesting animal you've rescued?
I would say the zebras for sure, just because it's not something that you see readily. I guess we did rescue an onager. We have him. His name is Marty, and he is actually an endangered species of donkey. Um, and I recognized him right away because we've saved one before that was in the pipeline. But yeah, these are endangered donkeys and they have very unique features to them, like a very long face. They're like a light tan with very prominent markings. Once you see one, you don't ever forget what they look like. But I would say he would definitely probably be the most interesting along with the zebras that we've rescued.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I had remembered you had posted something about this endangered horse. I couldn't remember if it was a horse or donkey. So thank you for sharing because I thought, oh my God, that is just, I mean, here you're saving like a horse that really is on the endangered list. I mean, what are we doing
Yeah,
here?
yeah, it's crazy. But it's real and it happens every single, I don't see onagers that often, but I have seen two. And it's crazy that an endangered species like that ends up at an auction. And if I hadn't known what that was, he would have shipped to Mexico to slaughter because he was a stud and no one buys stud donkeys. They ship them, basically they buy them at the auction and no one wants them. So they ship them out the next day. And had I not recognized what he was, he would be gone. And that would be an endangered species just shipped across the border.
It's just so heartbreaking. I mean, so what does all seated in a barn represent? I think for people who may not be horse people, there that might be a very interesting, like a company name.
Yes. I actually have gotten this a lot. And so when my sister and I were trying to come up with the name of the nonprofit, it was really important to me that I didn't want it to just be another horse rescue type name. Like, I didn't. I was very much all about, I wanted something that encompassed what I actually felt was my passion and my soul. And there was a company, I don't know if they're still in business, I think they are, but they were a business called Outstanding in the Field. And I love the concept behind it because I could never personally afford to go. But it was this beautiful idea of supporting local farmers and local businesses, and it brings people together in a sense of community. And what they would do is they would set up a really long table for about 100 people, sometimes up to 200 people. And they would, contract out with the local producers in that area and do a menu from scratch using locally sourced food. And it would just bring people together to celebrate that community, that supporting local, all about sustaining and nature. And I loved it. And I wanted it to be something encompassing like that. Like we're not just a rescue, we're people coming together from all around the world on the same playing field. It makes me choked up even talking about it, but on the same playing field, on the same level. It doesn't matter what your age is, what your success is. It matters. It doesn't matter at all because at this table, we're all seated in a barn with the animals and coming together collectively on behalf of them. And that's what I wanted it to be about. I wanted it to be about everyone just together, the animals, and what that represents when people do hold hands and stand together to create change.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What a great idea.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, my goodness. So when we talk about just the everyday, day-to-day work, I'm sure you are insanely busy. Why don't you share with us, because I know you're just in Bakersfield, so people can go there and volunteer and help, right?
Yes, absolutely, they can.
So why don't you share with us a little bit about the day-to-day, like how many horses you have in your care, and what does the day-to-day kind of look like?
Well, we have the one main property in California that we have. We love having volunteers. We have about 140 horses here. Well, it encompasses horses, donkeys. We have zebras, things like that, but mostly all horses here. But we're very community driven at this location. We really want like to use it to give back to our community, but also to educate our community as well. It's also where I live and I reside. And this is kind of like our mother hub. But then we have 6 properties in Texas that all function with kind of their own, like some of them, are more for the seniors that need to retire. One is more geared towards quarantine. One is more geared towards like seniors and what they need. So they all kind of function independently of each other, but it's important that we have those spaces because there's a lot of horses that we rescue that it's not the right thing or in their best interest to transport them that whole way out to California. It would be just painful for them and just isn't the right thing. So as we've grown, we've had to evolve. And, if we're going to pay board for someone to quarantine, we might as well take that money and just either rent or, try to own the property that we can just do it ourselves at, which is great because then we're more in control of the feed and the medications and what they need and how they're doing and all the things. And so the barn's just slowly been building out these areas. We're hoping by the end of this year to have our first little flagship spot in Nashville in Tennessee, which will be huge for us. There's a lot of followers of ours that are in Nashville or visit Nashville, and to have a little hub there that we can help with owner surrenders and again expand on education and working with the community there. I think that it will be a really important piece to this slowly, growing out and becoming a solution to this huge problem here in America. But yeah, our one big place is here. And then in total, we have around 550 horses amongst all the properties.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. So if someone needed to surrender their horse, like in California, could they contact you to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So if for owner surrenders, we just hope that they send us an email or a text message, and then we basically never tell anybody no, unless it's something where it's not, I don't want to say neglect because some people just truly just don't know what they don't know and they don't realize
Mhm.
that their horse is foundering and needs to probably be euthanized. So we try our best. If it's something where a horse is in pain and the owners just don't know, then we'll pay and work with their vet to come out and actually see what the problem is. Just because I would hate to go pick up a horse that is in agony and make it go in a 4-hour trailer ride unnecessarily if we can just work with their vet there at their home. So, but yeah, we try to always help with owner surrenders as we can.
Oh, it sounds like such a great resource because, some people just don't know. And I mean, if I had a horse, I wouldn't know the first thing to do. There would be a lot of education that would have to take place to make sure I was doing everything right because bigger animals require more money. You have to take care of them.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, that's where back to when I was talking initially about how, we made mistakes, but we learned from it. And again, there wasn't anyone helping us. All I knew about horses was what I had learned from, I grew up and I showed a paint horse named Mr. Broadway. So I only knew what I knew from being at that show barn, which my horse was in great health and got his regular farrier care. So I never had to deal with these issues that I see a lot now in these, rescues who have been neglected in one form or another. And people just don't know. Like they don't know that maybe the alfalfa they're feeding is actually what's causing the soreness in their horse's hooves. They don't know what founder is. They don't know what a stifle, being bone on bone causing the horse pain looks like. They don't know what kissing spine is. They just know that their horse is bucking when they put the saddle on it. And if you've never been taught that, then you're not going to have any idea, which is only going to set you and the horse up for failure. And so, yeah, we again just try really hard to get the education part out there.
For people, because I know you also have a section where you help people with horse adoptions. Is that where some of the education comes into? Maybe someone really wants a horse, but they're new to having horses?
Yeah, so that's something that actually this year we've always been, if a horse is ready and able to be adopted out and we find the perfect match for them, that is the goal, right? That's what we want to do. But what I have found over the years is, to your point, there are uneducated people who would love nothing more than to own a horse. And they read the books and they find a horse, they connect with it, and they want to own the horse. But then what we find is that because of their lack of education, the horses tend to, they're smart, and horses figure out that their owners don't know what they're doing. And if the person doesn't have the ability to ask for help and want to ask for help to grow with their horse, if they don't have that ability, it's going to set everyone up for failure. And what I have found is that more often than not, when we have these beginner horse owners, they have the best, most beautiful intentions, but when you have your appointment, you want to put your best self forward. Just like when I adopted my horses, when I yes, I'm experienced, I know what I'm doing, but that was me feeling really confident in myself when really I didn't have a lot of education. I just really wanted to adopt this horse and give him a good home. And so that's why we created the lease program, because what we were finding is 6 months in, these good intentioned first time horse owners would get a hold of us and say, "Hey, I would like to return the horse. It's kicking me. I can't do the feet. They bucked me off. They're not bathing." I mean, just any reason. And that really it's not a horse problem, it's a person problem. And then that just started frustrating me because they never communicated they were having those issues. They never reached out for help. So that's why we created the lease program. It's great. You're a beginner. We're going to give you one of our beginner horses that are very beginner friendly. They're probably going to be a senior, but they're not going to take advantage of you. You're going to learn through them how to be the best horse owner you can be, so that in 3 or 6 months, when your lease is up, then you are ready to adopt a horse. And then I'm not having to now rehab a horse I already rehabbed to make up for what the person didn't know but didn't ask. And now they set that horse up for failure. And now I'm technically now rescuing it twice. And that's frustrating to me. So that's kind of where our program has evolved, where we're really trying to stand firm in the fact that we've done this enough, done this long enough, that this is the way our program works. And that's fine. It may not be for everyone. You can go adopt a horse from any other rescue. But if you want to come to us, we're going to stand behind you, be honest with you, and try to set you up for success with your horse now and 10 years from now. And so that's just kind of how our process goes here.
I think that's very wise to do it that way. And people can also volunteer and get some hands-on experience and start learning how
Absolutely.
to manage and, to be a successful horse owner.
Yep. And that's where when we have a lot of families that want to get a horse for their kids, we're like, put the brakes on first. Let's come out, volunteer. Let's see how interested your kids really are when they're having to come out 2, 3 times a week, walk the horse, bathe the horse, clean the feet out. Like, will their interests stay then? Or is it just the idea of the horse? And a lot of families do. They come out, they want to volunteer, and they really want to see if their kids are truly committed. Because, at the end of the day, it's the parents that have to take on that financial responsibility. And ultimately, if the kid loses interest, now it's the parents having to just care for a horse sitting in their backyard.
Yeah, they have to be responsible for that horse. So,
Yep.
we need an adult to be responsible.
Absolutely.
So, my goodness, I mean, it sounds like there's so many ways that people can really get involved. So, what does the process look like when you have a horse that comes in that's injured? Can you share about that and maybe like the partners that you work with?
So typically, when I'm there, obviously I'm there in person. So I'm able to assess the horse based on what I know. And I can tell if the horse should probably get to the vet. Like, is it an emergency and they need to go to the vet right now? If so, let's make sure that happens. Like, what is their physical state? Is it something that we can wait and take them, let's schedule an appointment with our vets and get them in when they're due? So I really try to assess the horse in the moment based on crisis level. Once we get them, if it's not a get to the vet emergency, then once we get them to the properties, we already have our vets know our process now. We're at the auction every month. We're usually saving around 40 to 70 horses, and they have us on standby as like an always open appointment. They don't book anything. They know that they are going to be busy with us. And so then basically, I, in my head, as I'm rescuing, I'm also writing down what location the horses are going to be going to based on what that location does best. And so if it's a horses needing x-rayed, they're like, because they have visible issues with their legs that may or may not be detrimental, those horses are all going to go to one specific property where I know that vet is going to get there. It's scheduled on Tuesday, and they're going to go through an x-ray and ultrasound these horses' legs to see what's going on. And is it something that we can fix with time, fix with injections, or is it something crippling where the horse is in pain and the right thing to do is to humanely euthanize them? Then we have horses like if they're pregnant. If they're pregnant, they're going to go to a specific property where they just to get to go through quarantine and get to just be moms. And we allow them to go through that process freely. There's very minimal intervention outside of medication and vaccinations and farrier work. We just let them enjoy motherhood for about a year, depending on how far along they are with their pregnancy. If they're wild horses, then typically we've gotten them because we either have a connection with someone who can take them in to be wild horses at a sanctuary, or it's a wild horse that we have already been communicating with our trainers that we have the ability to take them in to put them into our training program. And is it going to be a right fit? I don't like to rescue wild horses unless I have a plan forward, one way or the other. But if it's a horse that I'm like, hey, trainers, does anyone think this would be a good fit for your program? Trainer says, yes, let me take that one on. I have space and I feel like it's a good fit because just like with us, when we were in school, we connected with different teachers. Horses are the same. They may not connect with every single trainer. So that's also where I'm in the present with that horse. And the moment I'm gauging them and which trainer do I think is going to fit this personality type best. And if I'm wrong, that's fine. We'll adjust and move the horse to another trainer. Some of our horses go to 3 different trainers just because the horse will hit a plateau and now it's time to have a different sort of stimulation to build confidence in them. So I try to be very picky with the wild horses just because I have to also take into account if this horse that I've committed to for training doesn't thrive in training and it's very clear that this horse does not want to be a trained horse, that's fine. Do we have the space then to retire that horse with us permanently, or do I have a connection that has an open door for another horse to come in? If the horses are seniors or emaciated, those horses go to a different property because horses that are seniors or emaciated tend to take very specific diets, or it can compromise them physically and actually kill them. So I try to be very mindful of who I'm rescuing, what their eating issues could be. Are they skinny because they have cancer, or are they skinny because they're actually truly emaciated due to dental or age issues? So as you can see, it's a lot of sorting and knowing, but luckily we've been doing this long enough that we have, thank God, the space and the team that can very effectively and efficiently take these horses in and on and set them up for success.
I just find it so fascinating that you are able to manage all that the way that you are because it seems like such a huge undertaking. I mean, I had one dog and I had a hard time with it. I don't know how you deal with 500 horses, being able to manage them all.
It's a lot. I have a very massive and very thorough Excel spreadsheet. We actually developed an app this year that our whole team is slowly transitioning to. So all of our horses are being placed into the app where anyone at any time from our team can pull that horse up and have access to all their records, their training records, literally anything live in the moment. And so that's going to be a really helpful tool for us just for communication. But then also this app we are developing it to then be prototyped, and we'll upload it onto the Apple Store for other rescues to download to use to structure their systems as well.
Oh, that's so clever. I
Yeah.
understand you also have all these sponsorship opportunities. And, I think that these are great gifts for people that have everything. People who love horses, because we love horses, they're getting it. I mean, there's lots of opportunities here that you have where people can like sponsor a meal or a bath or a hoof trim. So you've got so many opportunities where people can really be involved in the horse's well-being.
Yeah, and that's another way that people can support us is through these sponsorships. And they may not think like, oh, a $10 bag of shavings, right? They might be like, oh, that just seems so simple, but it's not. Like, we go through pellets and pellets of shavings. And anytime someone sponsors a $10 feed, that makes such an impact to us in such a grand way because the more that we can have help in those little ways, such as sponsorships, the more it frees those donations up to, let's say, we need a new structure built for shade, or we need to fix a fence line in one of our paddocks. So, as people are able to step in and sponsor and gift those sponsorships, it just frees us up to grow a little bit more, even better. So we appreciate it when people want to sponsor and gift sponsorships, like in whether it's the smallest way in a $10 bag of shavings or in the full sponsor of a save of a horse. They all truly make such a big difference.
Oh my goodness. Do you ever have like elementary school kids that come out and or want to help sponsor a horse or donate to sponsoring a horse?
So part of that question is yes. So we are one of the field trip locations here in Kern County for all of the schools, both homeschools and public and private. So we get a lot of kids through here all year long, which is great and beautiful, and we love it because again, it goes back to awareness and education. But unfortunately, no, we don't have any sponsorships that come from that. Yes, 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 yes.
Yet I'm putting out a call out for anyone who's a teacher. This is a great opportunity to get your children in your school to learn or principal to learn about compassion and ways to help animals that share this planet with us, especially donkeys and horses.
Yeah, completely.
Well, I mean, I have to tell you, I've got like the hat, I've got socks, I've got all sorts of things that I've been buying from,
Thank you.
because it helps. All of these things. I mean, I know people say, okay, well, I get a hat for this, but it's actually helping the horses and helping you to save more horses, right?
Yep, people don't realize like how much the merchandise actually does not just help us, but it spreads awareness. I mean, it was so cool to me the other day. So we had to close out one of our fundraisers from the March auction, and we had these green hats. And we were able to sell all of those hats, which essentially closed out our fundraiser for March, which was amazing. But the coolest part about it was that I got a message from a girl. She was in Paso Robles, which is about an hour and a half from us here in Bakersfield, where we're at. And she said, how cool is this? I went to a bar and I looked over, and there was a couple sitting at the bar, and the boyfriend had on your green trucker hat. So, of course, being a follower, I knew what that hat was. So I had to go over and ask, oh my God, you follow All Seated in a Barn? And they said, yes. Well, it turns out that they were visiting from Nebraska to Paso Robles. And yes, they had bought the hat to support us help save the horses. So it's just, to me, that was just so neat to see it come full circle where it wasn't just also about saving horses, but it was awareness too in that moment. Like two people that don't know each other, but they follow us and it just was amazing to me. I was like, oh my God, that is the coolest thing. So it just made me happy that the hats are doing more than just helping us save horses. They're spreading awareness through conversation.
Oh, yes. I mean, my friends have socks and a few of them have hats. So we're all talking about you guys.
Thank you.
Well, and to talk about the socks, I saved the best for last. Let's talk about the million sock
Yeah,
goal. I'm so excited about this. Everyone I know is getting socks for everything. Holidays, birthdays,
I hope so.
Christmas, everyone's getting a sock.
Yeah, so it's really neat. Well, I came up with the whole You've Been Sock campaign when I was flying home the end of last year. And I was so frustrated sitting there, just like I had a long flight and I was stewing. And I was like, I've really got to get the awareness out there. Like, what do I have to do? And I was like, I just literally want to sock people. And then I was like, oh my God, what if I just start selling socks to spread awareness? And so I took that idea, and a company that a friend of mine worked with was like, if we can help you with that, like, what do you have in mind? And so I just kind of said, hey, let's start with one or two socks. What can you do? And they said, well, we want to help support you because we're animal people. The company is based out of Seattle. And they said, we will give you best price on one sock or 5,000 socks. It doesn't matter. We're going to give you best price on sock one. And we have a whole design team. You tell them what you're thinking. We're going to send you some mock-ups and let's start helping you sell these socks. I said, great. So we got the socks launched and it started doing really well. And suddenly I'm getting emails from the CEO of the company saying, congratulations, you just sold more socks than Dick's Sporting Good has this year.
Oh
And I was
my
like,
gosh.
what? And we had just started. We were like 2 months in. And so by the time we got to the end of December, the CEO was so blown away by what we were doing in selling these stocks that he was like, okay, I'm going to challenge you because you seem to, you're doing really well with this and we want to help you as a company. If you sell 1 million socks, which if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be you, Talia. By December of 2026, our company will give you $500,000 as a donation to go into the auction in December and kick butt. And I wanted to start crying because I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, do you know what that money could do? Not just for us as an organization, but I'll be able to give money to the other rescues that go to help them. So, like, there's even more lives that are going to get saved. And so now I have made it my full on mission that I will sell 1 million pairs of socks by December. I don't know how. I've just recently been starting to reach out to a lot of influencers because I can start hopefully leaning on other people's platforms to help really push these sock sales out there. And I know that the company is trying to get these socks into a Western store called the NRS, the National Rodeo Store in Bowie, Tech. It's in, Decatur, Texas. And it's huge. It's like going to the most beautiful horse location with anything horse you can think of. And if they can sell our socks to help us, that would be such a massive help to us with this goal. But yeah, it's going to be, if we can hit 1 million socks, then to have that donation come in December will just be truly like life changing for these animals.
Well, I know I'm going to be making a dent in that. So, with buying socks, and I'm already pressuring, I wouldn't say pressuring, but I'm encouraging my friends to do the same. So,
Uh,
we're definitely saying, hey, you got to buy socks. My goodness, Talia, where can people connect with you and learn more about All Seated in a Barn and where they can go donate? Of course, we want people to donate to save a horse.
so the best way to connect with us is obviously it's going to be through social media, which is we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're on YouTube. And we put a ton of fun videos on YouTube that you don't see a lot of on the other two platforms. But if they want to contact us directly, they can send us an email at info@allseatedinabarn.com. And they can also, if they have any just questions about the organization or scheduling to come out and volunteer or stay for a week, they can also call Leanne at 661-364-9608. And yeah, we love any and all visitors, interactions, help, all the things.
All the help you can get. Well, Talia, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. It was a great break from my day.
Well, thank you, Talia. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your horse and donkey rescue, all seated in a barn. You guys are doing some amazing work there. If you'd like to donate your time, please visit allseatedinabarn.com or You can visit their social media page and website to learn about fundraising opportunities that they have for horses that they're saving today from the kill pens, and also merch that you can buy that helps save a horse and a life. And again, their website is allseatedinabarn.com. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.